9 Sinister Whistle Secrets Revealed, the haunted legacy of the Appalachian Mountains. Emily's heart raced as she nestled deeper into the worn couch in her dilapidated home. The faint murmur of the woods called out from beyond her backyard, where shadows twisted among the trees, racing with her imagination. The horrible whistle echoed again, slicing the calm night air. What was that sound? Was it fatigue playing tricks on her desperately strained mind, or something more insidious lurking just beyond her sight? The stories whispered among the townsfolk cut through the night like ice. The whistler, they said, a dark figure who lured children into the depths of the forest, never to be seen again. The whispers made her skin crawl. She shook the thought from her head. It was easier to focus on keeping her job at the diner and raising Ben and Lucy. But as each night passed, the sound grew bolder, creeping into her dreams like a nightmare that refused to fade at dawn. Waking up with cold sweat on her brow, Emily dismissed her unease. She had 2 children to care for, mouths to feed. Still, she couldn't shake it. She watched as Lucy and Ben played in the yard, laughter ringing out like bells, their innocence clashing with the grim tales her neighbors warned her against. Out of the corner of her eye, she glimpsed a shadow flit past the porch. She turned, heart thumping. "Mom!" Ben's voice cut in. "Lucy says she heard the whispers again. From the woods. You stay away from there," she barked, panic flooding her thoughts. As she looked down at Ben's anxious face, doubt gnawed at her heart. The pets were disappearing, one neighbor's cat, another's dog. Everyone whispered but no one acted. The whistler was real to them, yet local authorities shrugged it off, chalking it up to weary minds and overactive imaginations. The whistle cut through the dense silence again, stealing her breath. Then came snippets of half-heard conversations from her neighbors, hurried and scared. Nobody wanted to talk about what it meant, but the way they exchanged glances said everything. Was she losing her grip on reality? Or was there something tangible out there, lurking in the dark? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One fateful night, the whistle pierced through with an intensity that nearly shattered her. It tugged at her like a thread, drawing her towards the oak tree. She stepped outside, and adrenaline surged when she saw Ben standing there, eyes wide and entranced, while Lucy was nowhere in sight. "Lucy!" She screamed, but her voice was but a whisper swallowed by the dark. Her heart pounded in her chest, the shadows stretching ominously like fingers reaching for her family. She gripped Ben's hand tightly, dread pooling in her stomach, and stepped forward, drawn toward the woods. The whistle echoed louder now, wrapping around her like a shroud, beckoning her deeper into the treacherous embrace of the trees. The secrets of the whistler loomed, heavy in the air. They weren't just tales, something dark was hiding within the folklore of this town. As Emily ventured further into the twisted paths, a chilling thought gripped her: the whistler wasn't merely an ancient urban legend. It might already have its claws deep in their lives, and it may be waiting just for her. The forest around her thickened, the shadows thrummed with anticipation, and she knew, with every step, that the real nightmare was just beginning. The night sky expanded above Emily as she entered the woods, each shadow thickening like smoke curling around her. The whistle danced in her ears, an alluring siren threatening to pull her deeper into the abyss. She clutched Ben's hand tighter, his small fingers trembling in hers, and fought the urge to turn back. Lucy's laughter had vanished, swallowed by the darkness, and every heartbeat echoed the chills settling in her bones. "Stay close," she hissed, scanning the towering trees that loomed around them like silent sentinels. Each step felt wrong, every rustle a reminder of how vulnerable they were. Echoes of stories surged through her mind: the lost children, the desperate searches ending with the only remains being forgotten toys in the underbrush. The darkness pressed in, making her feel isolated. "Lucy!" she called, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. A cataclysm of thoughts twisted in her head. How could she have let this happen? Was her care enough to shield them from whatever the woods had in store? Ben pointed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, look!" And as she turned to where he indicated, the whistle pierced again. But this time, it was different. It sounded softer, a coaxing lull. Something unnatural dripped from the tone, and instinct told her to run, yet her body refused to obey. "Go back to the house, Ben," she commanded, desperation clawing at her throat. But he stood rooted, his gaze entranced by something in the gloom. It was only when a pair of pale, glowing eyes blinked into existence just beyond the reach of the shadows that she felt the panic snap within her chest. "Mommy!" Ben cried, and the innocence of his scream shattered her resolve. She took a step toward him, but in that instant, shadows shifted, coiling around like serpents. The whistle crested again, encircling them in its mesmerizing hold. "Lucy!" she screamed once more, terror now igniting the urgency in her movements. She took a step forward, pushing against the energy that held her, trying to break free from the enchanting call of the whistler. A rustle came behind her, cold dread paralyzing her, and when she turned, an unearthly figure materialized. It was cloaked in darkness, a silhouette that held the weight of every lost child, every whispered caution that had filled her ears since moving to this haunted town. "Who are you?" she gasped, but her voice fell into the abyss, drowned in the oppressive silence. The figure raised a hand, a gesture that sent shivers down her spine. "Time is fleeting," it whispered, its voice echoing through the trees. "The forest hungers." She grabbed Ben, ready to flee, but the path twisted impossibly, branches clawing at the air as they closed off any escape. "We need to run," she yelled, feeling the primal urge to survive bubbling to the surface. Then, out of the thick haze, a high-pitched giggle broke through Lucy. The sound was too unearthly, too close to the echoes of the whistle. "Mommy! Come play!" The voice beckoned, and Emily's stomach churned. It sounded like her daughter, yet something was off. Something was really wrong. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Ben back. But the shadows shifted again, whispering, promising secrets, and the chill of the forest gripped her heart. Then Lucy's form emerged, ethereal and glowing, as if wrapped in the moonlight itself. "Why are you scared, Mommy?" she asked, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. The world spun as Emily felt reality slipping through her fingers. "Help me, Lucy. We have to go, now." The twisted path behind them grew darker, the whisper of the trees intensified, seeming to urge her deeper still. "Mommy, I like it here," Lucy replied with an innocent smile. "No!" Emily screamed, panic clawing at her throat. The truth crashed over her. The forest wasn't just a backdrop, it was alive, hungry, wanting more. They were caught in a web that would not let them escape. As Emily stumbled back towards Ben, the trees closed in like giants, their branches outstretched, yearning. The whistle crescendoed, drowning out her thoughts entirely. The woods were no mere danger. They were a trap. Just when she thought all was lost, she locked eyes with Ben. "We fight, okay?" But before they could react, the world turned black. They were no longer just lost in the woods. They were about to discover what lay at the heart of the Appalachian terror, what was the true price of their survival. Emily blinked as darkness engulfed their surroundings, an ink-like void that swallowed the last shreds of light. The cold air turned thicker, stifling her breath. She gripped Ben's hand like a lifeline while whispers seemed to swirl around them, indistinct yet full of malice. She strained to hear Lucy's voice, but it was lost, drowned in the overwhelming sea of shadows. "Stay with me, Ben," she said, her voice a trembling thread in the encroaching dark. But the grip of her son's tiny fingers had slackened, leaving her to feel entirely alone. "Please," silence stretched. A sense of foreboding filled the air, like the moment before a storm breaks. Panic clawed at her insides as she felt the pull of something deep in the void, a powerful lure that beckoned them deeper into the woods. She could almost hear the call of the whistler, threading through the whispers, teasing and tantalizing. Just then, a flicker of warmth brushed against her cheek. The glow of something familiar flickered in the murky air, illuminating the small space around them. Emily squinted, fumbling forward, holding Ben's hand tightly. The light pulsed, radiating a warmth that fought against the chill, but the shadows danced with its illumination, twisting into grotesque shapes. "Lucy?" Emily whispered, hope igniting within her. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage as she ventured closer. The flicker solidified into a shimmering figure. Her daughter stood there, ethereal and hauntingly beautiful, but the smile on Lucy's face sent a jolt of fear through her. It was too wide, too hungry. "What's wrong, Mommy?" Lucy asked, her voice sweet yet layered with something more sinister. "Stay with us." She waved her arms toward the encroaching darkness, and with it came tiny spectral figures, children lost, eyes vacant yet pleading. They floated just outside the reach of light, their faces a collage of fear and sorrow. Emily's breath hitched in her throat. The lost children of the woods, forever trapped. "Mommy, they want to play," Lucy said with a twirl, her laughter echoing like glass breaking. "No!" Emily cried, backing away. She felt the chill of the forest seeping into her bones. "We need to go, Lucy. Now." "Why not, Mommy?" Lucy's voice shifted, a low rumble that resounded between the trees, twisting innocent curiosity into something darker. "You can't leave. You're part of the game now." The trees surged closer around them, branches clawing, wrapping tighter as their bark twisted unnaturally, forming grotesque faces that seemed to mock her. Emily shoved herself forward, pulling Ben beside her. "Hold on, Ben. We're getting out." But the deeper they tried to go, the denser the shadows became, clawing back as if they were alive. The laughter of children echoed, piercing through the gloom, mingling with the whistle that coaxed and cackled. As the chill swept over her again, memories flashed in her mind, stories from the locals, warnings of what lay beyond familiar paths, a price to pay for leaving the earth behind. The urgency bubbled in her gut. She was losing them both. "Fight it!" she screamed, looking desperately at Ben, who stood, paralyzed by fear. "You have to fight." Suddenly, Emily felt the ground shift beneath her feet. The forest warped, the trees swaying menacingly as the whisper took form, alive in chilling clarity. "The forest hungers," it crooned. "Time is fleeting, run." She shouted, pulling Ben as the air thickened, tearing at her lungs. The light faded, leaving only the chaotic laughter and the cruel whistle. Just ahead, the shadows began to peel away, leading to a patch of faint moonlight. "This way," Emily urged, her heart racing against despair, but as they stumbled forward, she realized with horror that the exit was closing, not opening. The roots erupted around them, and in one swift movement, they snared their feet. As the shadows descended, wrapping her family in an icy embrace, she felt a pang of hopelessness. What would she be willing to sacrifice to protect Ben? And as the darkness threatened to swallow them whole, she recalled the stories the children's laughter. It was a warning, a whispered secret tied to the woods. What did they truly want from her? The darkness loomed, but she felt an ember of determination flicker within. Maybe she could uncover the forest's hidden truth. But could she confront the horrors lurking just beyond the light? She didn't have much time to ponder. The woods were alive and hungry, and they were just beginning to feast. "No!" Emily screamed as the roots tightened around her ankles, pulling her down into the cold ground. Panic surged through her veins, sending her heart into a frantic rhythm. She twisted, desperate to free Ben. "Ben! Hold on to me!" The whispers intensified, swirling like a vibrant storm of dread. Shadows snickered around them, mocking her terror. What were they? Just figments? Or were they something far worse, nightmares that fed on fear? Mommy? Ben's voice trembled, and a chill unfurled in her. The innocence she was so desperate to protect was slipping through her fingers, swallowed by the malevolent grasp of the woods. The moonlight dimmed as the shadows closed in, their wails grazing her ears like icy fingers. With each breath, it felt harder and harder to fight back. Emily! Help us! Haunted cries filled the air, voices she recognized from her nightmares, lost souls pleading for release. Stay with me! She shouted, struggling against the roots, the ground feeling alive beneath her. Blood rushed to her ears as the world around them twisted. She could feel Ben's fear pulsating from him, and in that moment, a surge of determination spurred her on. Lucy! Emily called out, twisting in her place. Where are you? The figure of her daughter flickered at the edges of the shadows, an ephemeral fabric woven from fear. Help us! Please! But Lucy's laughter echoed again, a siren's call, sweet yet cutting. You can't leave, Mommy. The game is just starting. The darkness shimmered, teasing, dancing around them. The forest wasn't just hungry, it was ravenous, and it wanted more than just the echoes of laughter. Emily felt it, a clawing hunger at the base of her breath, the shame of costs made to survive here. What was she willing to sacrifice? Ben! She yelled, tugging harder, despair creeping in. As if her fear fueled the shadows, the roots tightened further, leading them deeper into the dark core of this orchard of despair. She could feel the earth shift beneath her, pulsing as if something monstrous lived below. We need to move. Just then, the ground trembled violently, tossing her off balance. Emily felt herself being dragged backward, the pull of the forest becoming a tangible force. No! She lunged forward, wrenching Ben free. He stumbled but caught himself, wide-eyed with a mix of terror and wonder. Mommy, he murmured, shaking. Stick close. We're leaving. She insisted. She could feel the darkness pressing in, testing them, tasting their resolve. They pushed through the onslaught of whispers, her heart racing against time. With one swift movement, she pulled Ben into the shambolic walls of trees. The shadows writhed, reaching for them, the laughter growing monstrous. Help us! Echoed louder now, a cacophony that scratched at her mind. Emily clenched her teeth, visions of her family flooding back, warm hugs, sunflower fields, laughter untainted by darkness. She couldn't lose that. Not to this place, not to the Whistler. Keep your eyes on the moonlight. She shouted, focused on the faint glow that seemed to pierce through the blackness, the only beacon in an abyss of horror, but as they ran, the moon waned, losing its light until they were enveloped in a thick ooze of shadow. The trees bore down, their gnarled branches clawing at her skin. Stay together. And then she saw it, a flicker of light dancing ahead like a will-o'-the-wisp, pulled toward it against her better judgment. The glimmer teased hope as they sprinted towards it, but with each step, she felt it slip further away. Suddenly, a deafening whistle rocked the night, profound and eerie, sending ice through her heart. It echoed louder, reverberating across the trees, making them tremble as if the forest had taken a deep breath. Run! Emily urged, her voice threading through panic, but something froze her in place. A fragment of a memory surfaced, the Whistler, a warning from local legends, the child's play, but also a haunting farewell. What if it wasn't just a game? What if it held truth twisted through time? Just as her thoughts spiraled, she felt the ground shift again, the roots clawing higher, preparing to pull them down. Emily looked desperately for the light, but it flickered out. Shadows danced wildly around them. What do you want? She cried out, raw with emotion. Everything, a chilling voice whispered, sharp as a knife, and the shadows shrank back for a moment. Emily's heart raced. Was that Lucy she heard? Or something far worse? The darkness surged again, waves of weighty despair crashing around them. What's the price? She thought, holding Ben tightly. And just like that, she understood that the forest wouldn't stop until it had been satiated. With no choice left, Emily clenched her jaw, determination igniting in her. What happens if we refuse? But the whistle darkened, sharper, feeding off their fear, and as they stumbled deeper into the twilight nightmare, she knew one thing: the truth lay hidden somewhere amongst the shadows and it was waiting for them to find it. As the chilling laughter erupted again, echoing through the trees, Emily gripped Ben tighter, whispering one more plea for strength. What lay ahead in their nightmarish game? Would she find the truth, or would they become lost like the others? Panic clawed at Emily's throat as she and Ben stumbled through the dark, the shadows flickering like the worst kind of nightmare come to life. She could still hear the taunting echo of laughter, the whispers threatening to pull them deeper into the abyss where hope vanished entirely. Hold on. She forced out, yanking Ben to her side as jagged branches whipped at their faces. She winced as a spindly limb grazed her cheek, leaving a stinging reminder that they were not alone in this twisted forest. The trees seemed to close in, the air thickening with a palpable dread. Each time she thought to catch her breath, the malicious whispers rose again, crowding her mind, pulling her into despair. Help us, help me, the lost souls cried, their voices beckoning through the haze. Emily shuddered, pushing forward. They needed a way out, a way to break free of this living nightmare. The further she ran, the more it felt as though the very ground beneath them was sinking, eager to swallow them whole. Mommy, I'm scared, Ben's voice trembled, the innocence in it nearly unraveling her resolve. Emily stopped, crouching low to look directly into his wide, frightened eyes. I know, love. Just a little bit further, I promise. But her own heart raced with uncertainty. What kind of weight did such promises carry against the looming darkness? As they continued, the forest twisted into a claustrophobic maze, the once faint light of the moon now obscured by a thick, rolling fog that clung to them like an unwanted shroud. It smothered the little warmth left in the night, each breath drawing them deeper into cold despair. Ahead, a shape darted. Emily's breath quickened. An animal? A shadow? Ben, stay close. She called, inexorably drawn to where the shadow danced and weaved, flickering in and out, taunting her again. The whistle pierced the air anew, more haunting than before. Each note sent shivers down Emily's spine, a chilling reminder of the legends she had heard whispered with cautious tones. Don't listen, the townsfolk had said. It's a trick. But here in this hellish thicket, disobedience felt all too dangerous. Blood pounding in her head, she clenched Ben's hand even tighter, forcing herself to focus. Shadows lunged in and out of visibility, dark figures that vanished the moment she dared to look closer. Mommy. Ben's voice quivered as something rustled in the underbrush. Panic bubbled up in Emily's throat, and she turned fiercely in that direction. It was dangerous, terribly so, but maybe there was something hiding in the darkness, a way through this malevolent nightmare. Come on. She urged, pulling Ben toward the sound as dread pooled in her stomach. They moved silently, hearts drumming louder than the whispers, each heartbeat echoing in the silence. And then suddenly, visibility returned, revealing a clearing, a brief respite from the terror. Moonlight glinted on a tarnished metal swing hanging from a solitary tree at the center, its chains eerily creaking even without a breeze. Is that? Ben whispered, his small voice barely cutting through the oppressive silence. Is that Lucy's swing? A bitter chill shot through Emily at the mention of her daughter's name. We need to go back, Ben. It's not safe here, she insisted, her instinct screaming at her to turn away. But just then, from within the shadows surrounding the clearing, pale fingers emerged, beckoning them closer with a sickly, inviting motion. Join us, join her, a whisper hissed from the depths of the night, each syllable dripping with a dangerous temptation. Emily's heart raced. It pushed against her ribs, desperate to escape. One wrong move, and they could slip away into the darkness, into the ghosts that haunted this place. Don't listen. She shouted, yanking Ben back, but the shadows seemed to coil, held by a force that gripped her resolve. A sharp laughter erupted, drowning out her thoughts, and with it came the realization that the forest was awake, calculating. It knew her fears, her regrets, and it was hungry. "Can you hear them, Mommy?" Ben asked, his eyes wide and entranced, refusing to leave. The pull of the swing. "No, Ben, you must listen to me." She gripped his shoulders, but the whispers grew louder, a cacophony drowning her pleas. Just as she contemplated their next move, the branches shifted, forming a corridor of darkness, the shadows beckoning ominously. She caught a glimpse of what lay beyond. And in that moment, a chilling thought emerged, one that threatened to unravel her mind entirely. If the forest wanted everything, did that mean Lucy was part of this twisted game? With her heart racing and desperation clawing at her, Emily took a step back, feeling dread settle like stone in her gut. "Ben!" she cried, "we're not done yet. We can't give in." But the shadows shivered with a new life, encroaching, and Emily had to wonder, was escape possible, or had they already lost their way? What if the truth, the ultimate price, was something far beyond what they imagined? Emily's grip tightened around Ben's small hand, her chest heaving from the panic that washed over her. The whispers now sounded like a chorus, a haunting melody that stirred something deep within her. Shadows shifted around them, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. "Where's the way out?" she murmured, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. Every flutter of movement felt ominous, every breeze was a brush of cold fingers against her skin. She turned her back to the swing, forcing herself to concentrate on the forest's edges, searching for some hint of light, some path away from this madness. Mommy Ben's voice was almost too soft to hear. "What if no?" she snapped, panic rising up her throat again. "We can't think like that." She could not allow fear to breed hopelessness, not now. "We'll keep moving. We have to find Lucy and get out of here." But as they turned, the fog thickened, swirling like a living entity, blocking their path. The moonlight struggled to break through the oppressive gloom, casting eerie shadows that seemed to reach for them. Without warning, the laughter echoed again, this time accompanied by a chilling whistle that seemed to wrap around them, a sinister lullaby urging them closer to the unseen horrors hiding in the trees. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, willing the sounds away, the memories creeping back of Lucy's giggles, a sound that was no longer innocent. "Mommy," Ben said, his tone hauntingly reflective. "What if this is where Lucy is?" "Don't say that." The last word was a shout, and the forest reclaimed her voice, drowning it in a cacophony of whispers that grew louder, more urgent. "You can't believe it." But a flicker of doubt crept into her mind. What if Lucy was here, trapped in some wretched limbo, calling out, "Mommy!" Ben screamed as darkness began to twist and contort, the trees angling in, their roots breaking through the surface like jagged teeth ready to consume them. Emily could feel the earth shifting beneath her feet, its pulse sinking with her heartbeat, urging her to swallow the pair whole. "Run!" she yelled, yanking Ben forward as she fought through the chaos, lungs burning as they stumbled onward. The whispers followed them, screeching with each death-defying turn she took. Suddenly, a mist swirled at their feet, thickening like fog until she could barely see her own hands. She could sense the eyes of the forest creeping alongside them, a hungry audience watching her dance along the edge of despair. "Mommy, help me!" Ben cried, suddenly lagging behind. She whipped around to see her son frozen, staring at the encroaching shadows with terror etched across his face. "Ben, run!" she screamed, lunging forward. But something tugged at her heart, a visceral connection she had never felt before. The shadows morphed further behind him, forming twisted shapes that resembled lost children, their faces echoing her own. "No! Don't take him!" she shouted, launching herself toward Ben. The shadows reared, engulfing him, and a low chuckle resonated through the air, chilling her to the bone. "Join us, join her," the voices beckoned, more insidious than ever. Emily lunged forward, barely grasping the tip of Ben's sleeve before he slipped further into the darkness. "I want to lose you," she screamed, pulling with all her might, his small body slipping from her fingers like mist, and then, just as suddenly as it had started, the shadows pulled back as if hesitating. The laughter faded into an unsettling silence. The forest stilled, holding its breath. Through the haze, she spotted something, a glimmer of hope. A small, ethereal light shined from the darkness, pulsating, drawing her in. Emily could feel it calling to her, offering a sliver of sanity. "Ben!" She yelled again, her voice mingling with rising dread. "Stay with me." But her eyes were fixed on the light. Was it a way out? Or another trap, leading her deeper into their game? The air thickened with tension as she focused on the light's warm glow. That soft whisper in her ear was beginning to make sense. "Maybe we need to join them." Ben's voice broke through her thoughts, softening, like a lost echo yearning for acceptance. A chilling realization washed over her as the shadows shifted once more. Ben stepped forward, ensnared by the quiet allure of the specters whispering his name. "Mommy!" The forest trembled, and Emily felt the ground shake beneath her feet as if it were warning her of a fate she could hardly bear to contemplate. Was this moment the turning point, or had they both entered a trap that would consume them forever? The truth hung heavily in the air, tantalizingly close, yet achingly far. Was she willing to sacrifice herself to save Ben, or would she face the horrors alone? As the ethereal whispers coiled tighter around her, the question loomed larger in her mind: what price was she willing to pay to keep him safe? Emily's heart raced as she watched Ben drift closer to the shimmering light. Her instincts screamed for her to act, but terror rooted her feet into the ground. She couldn't stand by while the darkness caressed her son's small frame, pulling at him, beckoning him deeper into the abyss. "Ben!" She shouted again, desperation cracking her voice. Every fiber of her being fought against the otherworldly pull of that light, radiating an almost tangible warmth, promising security, perhaps even Lucy. An overwhelming wave of emotions crashed over her, confusion and desperation mingling together. "You don't know what they are," she yelled, but her voice was barely a whisper against the growing symphony of the woods. The twisted shadows danced excitedly, flickering in and out of reality, their subtle laughter echoing in her ears like a taunt. "Mommy, it's okay." Ben's voice became softer, hypnotic in its innocence. He took another step forward, and the air shifted wildly, making her feel as if she might float away. She pressed her hands to her chest, the heaviness inside her like an anchor dragging her down. "Ben, please." There was a new edge to her voice now, one of raw fear. She surged forward, breaking through the thickening fog, reaching for him with panicked determination. But just as she came close enough to grasp his arm, a startling howl erupted from the shadows. It reverberated through the trees, shaking the very ground beneath them. Emily stumbled back, eyes wide with horror. The creatures within the fog shifted again, revealing glimpses of faces that tore at the fabric of her sanity, an endless parade of children, twisting in pain, their eyes hollow and seeking. "Join us, join her," they chanted, their collective murmur growth like the rustle of leaves turning into a storm. "No. I want to let you take him," Emily roared, lunging once more, and this time, her hand closed around Ben's wrist. But the shadows recoiled, pulling at her son. The ethereal light pulsed brighter, casting eerie silhouettes around them, and for a moment, Emily felt an inkling of relief. Was this the key to saving her boy? Or was it a device of deception? "Mommy!" Ben cried, his little face caught between trepidation and a strange yearning. Tears streamed down Emily's face, but she couldn't let him see her weakness. "Ben, we're leaving this place," she shouted with every ounce of strength she could muster. "We're not giving in to them." With a force that sent shockwaves through her body, she tugged at her son, but the pull from the other side was fierce. Dark fingers clawed at his clothes, whispering secrets that twisted around his mind, every syllable promising freedom, acceptance, everything he could ever want. "Mommy, what if they're right?" he asked, wide eyes reflecting fear and curiosity. "What if Lucy really is here?" The ground trembled again, a deep rumble that resonated like a heartbeat. Ben. Emily pleaded, her heart shattering at the idea of losing him. Don't listen. If it seems too good to be true, it is. But Ben shook his head, his desire for answers battling with years of fear and separation. And just when Emily felt she might lose him forever, the air crackled with a new energy. A chill swept through the trees, making the specters flinch. The whispers grew frantic, their urgency rising like wildfire. Join us, little one, find her, be one of us, they baited, desperation lacing their words. Then, the light behind them dimmed momentarily, flickering like a dying ember. Emily seized the chance, desperation fueling her resolve. She yanked Ben back, pain etched on her face as she fought against the shadows. But a sudden shift in the forest sent a jolt through the air. She felt the energy change, the presence behind them growing larger, more intimidating. Run! Emily screamed, pulling Ben with all her might as they dashed through the thinning fog, their desperation manifesting into frantic urgency. But just as they reached the flickering light, it dimmed completely, leaving them in chilling darkness. A terrible echo of laughter resounded around them, mocking, hungry. Mommy! What is happening? Ben whispered, instinctively clutching her tighter. I don't know, Emily breathed, panic tightening her throat. As fear sank its claws deeper into her psyche, she held Ben close, feeling the dread wash over her. Where were they? Suddenly, something heavy crashed through the trees, the ground quaking beneath them. The shadows writhed, and an overwhelming feeling of dread took hold. Stay close, she ordered, willing them both to push into the darkness, hoping against hope that salvation would come before the shadows consumed them entirely. As they fled deeper into the woods, she couldn't shake the question that clawed at her mind: what truly lay in the heart of that light, and at what cost would they escape this nightmare? Emily stole a glance over her shoulder, breath hitching in her throat. The forest seemed to weave itself around them even more alive, hungry but still, couldn't quite determine if it was a shield or a predator. As her heart raced wildly, a chilling thought tracked through her mind: what if the darkness was simply a reflection of themselves? What if they were meant to stay? The twisted realization gnawed at her insides as they plunged forward into the night. Would this be the last step on their path to freedom, or the first into an eternal darkness? And somewhere in that suffocating haze, a new whisper flickered: would they be brave enough to face what lurked in the depths of the unknown? Emily's breath came in ragged gasps, each inhale heavy with despair. The shadows writhed at the edges of her vision, dark tendrils that curled menacingly as if seeking to snatch them back. The laughter continued, echoing through the trees like a twisted lullaby, each chuckle punctuated by the cracking of branches above them. Keep running, Ben, she urged, her voice barely breaking above the cacophony. He stumbled slightly, the ground uneven beneath his small feet. Still, he clung to her hand, his grip tight, his eyes wide with fright. In that moment, she realized they weren't just running from darkness. They were fleeing from a memory, a deep-rooted fear that anchored them in this nightmare. Mommy, I'm scared, Ben cried, his voice cracking. She turned her head, urgency sharpening her focus. I know. But we have to trust each other. The wind howled through the branches, a sinister whisper weaving through the leaves, promising treachery. Emily focused on the path ahead, forcing her legs to move faster, the forest a blur of shadow and flickering light behind them. But the darkness seemed to pulse with life, and the urge to turn back, to surrender to its call, twisted her stomach. Then they burst into a small clearing, a momentary reprieve from the encroaching nightmare. But it was a false sanctuary. The air shimmered with an unsettling glow, as if the soil itself was alive, and even in the pale moonlight, Emily could see small, glimmering things, a multitude of eyes watching them from the underbrush. Mommy, what are those? Ben whispered, his voice trembling. I don't know, but we need to keep moving, she said fiercely. The laughter faded slightly, but the whispers intensified, intertwining with the rustling leaves. They beckoned, urging her to stay. Emily, a voice called, clear and piercing. It slithered through the air like smoke, wrapping around her senses. She froze, the familiar tone like ice in her veins. It was a voice she thought she'd lost forever, a sound that conjured both warmth and agony. "Lucy?" She choked, feeling her resolve waver. "No, no," she admonished herself. "This isn't real." But Ben tugged at her hand, his small face alight with hope. "Mommy, it's Lucy. We can find her." Tears blurred Emily's vision. The prospect of reuniting with her missing daughter battled fiercely with the solid knowledge that this was a trap. "Look at me, Ben. We can't trust them. It's a trick." The shadows thickened around the edges of the clearing, converging ominously. Flickers of light grew stronger in the distance, pulsing rhythmically, promising salvation if only they would step closer. "Join us, Emily," whispered the voice again, coaxing, sweet and haunting. "Bring him to me no," she shouted, feeling the weight of her defiance. "I refuse to let you take him, too." Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet trembled violently. A giant figure loomed in the darkness, its form still shrouded in the obsidian tendrils. Emily recoiled, yanking Ben behind her. "We have to go." As they turned to flee, the shadows erupted into chaos. Forms emerged, ghostly figures of children reaching out, their fingers grasping for her, their faces warped with despair and longing. "Help us," they cried in unison, their voices merging into a sorrowful chorus. Emily's heart sank at the horrifying sight. She couldn't help them. Not now. She couldn't be weak. "Mommy, look!" Ben gasped, pointing toward the dim light struggling against the darkness, something fiercely bright at the center. "That's where we need to go." Yet as they made their way toward it, Emily felt the darkness thicken around them, pressing in like a vice. The air felt electric, charged with unspeakable dread. "What if it really is her?" Ben implored, his voice faltering. "No!" Emily shouted, fury mixing with anguish. "We can't let it confuse us. We have to trust in each other." With each step toward that elusive light, Emily's resolve hardened. They couldn't fall into despair. They wouldn't become part of the darkness. But deep inside, another thought gnawed at her: what if this was the only way to save Lucy? Suddenly, the pulse of darkness surged, erupting like a wave crashing against them. Emily felt herself being pulled backward, dragged into the grips of despair. "Ben!" she screamed, her voice drowning in the overpowering tide. Just as the fearless shadows reached out to envelop them, she recalled Lucy's laughter echoing through her mind, piercing the enveloping horror. In the midst of the chaos, she clutched Ben tightly, urging them forward with the last remnants of hope. Behind them, the haunting whispers approached, ominously gaining strength. Whatever lay ahead in that light wasn't just an escape, it was a test, a final trial of their bond. "Run!" she urged, as she felt the darkness reach for her, hungry and relentless. Would they make it to the light? Or would they be consumed by the terrible secrets lurking behind them? In that moment, as they shot forward, fear gripped her. Was there an escape at all, or just another darkness waiting to ensnare them? The light seemed to throb, a beacon of hope amidst the consuming blackness. Emily pulled Ben along, each step that brought them closer felt like swimming against a current exhausting and relentless. The ground beneath them was wet and slick, mud sucking at their feet as if the earth itself was trying to claim them. "Mommy, hurry!" Ben cried, his voice rising with panic. He stumbled, nearly falling in the muck. "I don't want to die here." "Neither do I." She shot back, forcing herself to move, her heart pounding like a drum. Each pulse echoed in her ears, mixing with the sinister laughter that vibrated through the trees. She risked a glance back, and regret clawed at her. Visions of those children flashed in her mind, their eyes wide and desperate, their mouths forming silent pleas. "Emily," the voice coiled around her legs like an unseen serpent. "Bring him to us." She closed her eyes, shaking her head in defiance. "No. You're lying. You want to hurt us. The shadows churned angrily, and she could almost feel their resentment slithering against her skin. The crisp air turned frigid, biting at her exposed flesh. Her earlier warmth seemed a distant memory, replaced by a crippling dread. "Mommy!" Ben whimpered, his voice trembling as if he could sense the encroaching doom. "Hold on tight," Emily shouted, gripping his hand even harder. They were so close. She could see the outline of trees just beyond the clearing that held the flicker of light, a promise of freedom. She urged her legs to move faster, but each step felt like running through thick syrup. Then, the laughter crescendoed, twisted, mocking, and a figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall and dark, the contours of its body shifting and writhing as if made of smoke. It reached toward them, its fingers elongated and claw-like, dripping with a darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. "Come here, sweet Emily," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. "Don't you want to see Lucy?" The darkness surged again, pressing against Emily's chest, squeezing out the air. Her mind flooded with memories: Lucy's giggle, the pale pink dress she wore the last time Emily saw her, the look of innocence in her eyes. "No!" she screamed, shaking her head violently, breaking free from the haunting grasp of the memory. "We're leaving. We're going to be okay." She turned back toward the light, but the shadows thickened. Ben cried out, hands trembling. "I can't, Mommy. It's pulling me." With a surge of effort, Emily jerked him against her. "Focus on me, Ben. Stay with me." The ground quaked beneath them, each tremor resonating like a warning bell. She felt something lurk just behind her, slithering to the surface, growing closer, using their fear as fuel. The light pulsed rapidly now, brightening and dimming, creating a rhythm that matched her racing heart. Each blink felt like time slipping away. Mommy, Ben's voice was small now, fragile. "What if it's not safe? What if it is?" She shot back, desperation igniting the fierce protectiveness within her. "We can't stop. We have to risk it." With all the strength she could muster, she dashed forward. The figure lunged, but the pulsing light consumed the shadows, pushing them back, forcing them to retreat. Searing pain shot through her as darkness grasped at her ankle, trying to pull her down. "Run!" she screamed at Ben, close on her heels. As they reached the edge of the clearing, the light engulfed them. Emily felt the heat radiate, pushing against the darkness like the sun rising to a new day. Everything faded into blinding brightness. Then it hit her blow after blow, overwhelming her senses with a force she couldn't comprehend. What came next was not the safety she'd longed for. They landed hard, tumbling into a different place entirely. The air was thick, oppressively humid, heavy with an aroma of decay. "Where are we?" Ben's voice trembled as they clambered to their feet, the shadows still nipping at their heels. Emily looked up, a chill prickling her skin. The surroundings felt wrong, suffocating, endless rows of rusted signs, twisted metal and decaying trees, the remnants of something once alive. Panic surged once more. "We need to get out of here." But something flickered in the corner of her eye. A red light, pulsing like a heartbeat, beneath a rickety wooden arch. "Mommy, look." Ben pointed, enthralled yet frightened. "Stay close," she urged, but the closer they edged toward that ominous glow, the more she felt the eyes of the darkness upon them, watching, lurking, waiting. She hesitated, breath catching. What lay beyond that arch? Could it be freedom? Or another trap set by the shadows that stalked them relentlessly? "Are you ready?" she whispered, unsure if she was asking her son or herself, and together, clutching each other's hands with all the strength remaining, they stepped toward the glowing arch, their fates entwined in the unknown. As Emily and Ben stepped into the archway, the world shifted yet again. A blinding light engulfed them, a warmth that pierced the veil of darkness like a sun breaking through a storm. With a sudden pop, they found themselves standing in a clearing surrounded by tall grass, vibrant flowers, and a vast, serene sky above. Emily gasped, her breath hitching with disbelief. The oppressive weight that had clawed at her for so long was gone, and a suffocating quiet replaced the cacophony of whispers. The forest was behind them, swallowed by the light cast by a brilliant full moon, illuminating everything with a gentle glow. "Mommy?" Ben's voice broke through the stillness. He looked around, wide-eyed with wonder. Is this real?" "Yes," she breathed, relief flooding her. I think we made it." But even as she spoke, uncertainty clutched at her heart. Had they truly escaped? Her thoughts turned back to Lucy and the darkness that had threatened to consume them. They stood together in the light, feeling its warmth seep into their bones, and for a moment, they were enveloped in an embrace of safety. A hush fell over the space, carrying the sweet scent of jasmine and earth, mingled with the whispers of a gentle breeze. "That swing," Ben murmured, glancing toward a small play area in the clearing. Emily's heart sank as she spotted it, a rusted swing set, its chains swaying just slightly in the breeze. It stood perfectly still, yet something about it drew her closer, an echo of the past urging her to remember. "Wait, Ben," she said, the weight of apprehension anchoring her steps. That swing, it might be but Ben was already tearing ahead, excitement igniting his small frame. "Mommy, look! It's just a swing." She hesitated, watching him, the innocence of his joy pulling painfully at her heart. Yet dread lingered, the specter of the forest and its whispers held her hostage in flashbacks. But in these fleeting moments, joy fought for a place just like the light fought through the darkness. "All right, but be careful," she called, and as he approached, she saw a glimmer of something, a silvery flash of light around the swing. With each step Ben took, shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. The forest's darkness seemed to loom, whispering her name. "Lucy," she murmured, the sound barely escaping her lips. Suddenly, the air shifted. The soft, melancholic laughter of a child rippled through the clearing, the sound stirring a familiar ache in her heart. "Mommy! I'm over here." Emily turned sharply, dread clawing at her heart. "Lucy!" There, just beyond the trees, stood Lucy. Her gaze was bright, eyes sparkling like stars. She wore the same pale pink dress, her hair dancing delicately in the wind. "Lucy, please come back!" Emily shouted, desperately reaching out as her heart raced. "Mommy, help me!" Lucy called sweetly, the innocence in her voice like honey. "No!" Emily cried, grounding herself. "You're not real." But Lucy took a step forward, light shimmering around her. In that moment, Emily understood the call of the whistler had beckoned her to the depths to forge a connection between the broken child and the lost mother. Lucy smiled, even as shadows danced at the edges of the clearing. "Join us, Mommy. You can keep me safe." Emily felt the urge to run toward her daughter, to pull her into an embrace and never let go. But the stories came flooding back, the dark tales that warned of the cost of their salvation. "I won't surrender." Ben stood frozen, eyes flickering back and forth between Emily and Lucy. "Mommy! Don't leave me! Stay!" Emily shouted, her eyes darting toward Ben before she turned back to Lucy. "Lucy! It's a trap! Don't come closer!" The shadows surged forward, thrumming with an energy that shook the ground beneath them. "Join us, join her," they whispered, voices entwined, a siren song threatening to break her resolve. Emily raised her voice, grounding herself. "No! I refuse to listen." Taking a deep breath, she stepped between them, arms outstretched. "Lucy! Come back to me. I'm here." Emotion surged, and warmth enveloped her, shielding her from the encroaching darkness. "Mommy!" Lucy's face twisted in confusion, pain flickering across her features as she hesitated, caught in the web of shadows. "Trust me!" Emily shouted. "We can escape this. I won't lose you." A few hesitant steps led Lucy closer, a spark of recognition snapping in her eyes. "Mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart. You'll be safe with me." As the shadows clawed, trying to drag Lucy back, Emily felt a surge of protectiveness surge through her veins. The light brightened around her, a beacon of hope against the omnipresent darkness. Drawing Ben close and focusing on Lucy, Emily pushed forward. "You're stronger than them. You belong with me." Her heart raced, but she stood her ground, courage battling the relentless shadows. Lucy's expression softened, the haunting flickers of innocence shining through. "I want to come home." "Then fight, Lucy. Fight with me." And with that, a surge of warmth radiated from their connection. It pushed the darkness back, shredding through the whispers that had lingered too long. Lucy approached carefully, her small feet finding strength again as light began to shine through the chaos. The shadows recoiled, and Emily felt the tightening release as the atmosphere around them shifted. The air sparkled like diamonds caught in a burst of sunlight. "Join us." The dark murmurs grew desperate, their cries desperate as they strained against the light. But it was too late, the love and bond shimmering brighter than any malevolence, a beacon against despair. Emily reached out, fingers brushing against Lucy's tiny hand. "Together." They shouted in unison, their voices forging an unbreakable bond. The darkness shrieked one last time as Lucy stepped through the encroaching shadows, collapsing into Emily's embrace. The weight of despair fell to the ground, the air stilling as the hearts of mother and daughter beat as one. In that moment, a new light unfurled, blinding the twisted visions of the woods. And as the last echoes of the haunted whistler finally faded, Emily knew they were free. The burden of fear released itself, leaving room for fresh breaths of hope. "We did it!" Ben shouted, joy flooding through his voice as he hugged his sister fiercely, clutching each other as warmth surrounded them. With tears in her eyes, Emily marveled at her family, the bond the darkness could never break. As dawn broke softly over the horizon, she felt the promise of a new beginning unfold beneath a canopy of newfound brightness. Together, they stepped toward the horizon, leaving shadows behind them, walking boldly into the light, a legacy reborn, where fear had once threatened to rule. This is the moment they rise again, together, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Now, you've been on this wild ride, and it's time to support our journey even further. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss any exclusive stories that are coming. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us share even more thrilling tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What did you think? Did you think they'd survive? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important it is to show your support. Let us keep this incredible community growing.